Hey, welcome everyone. I am delighted today to be speaking with Gracie, who is a first generation homesteader, and her Instagram is called Honey I'm Homesteading, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah,
Like I feel like I'm saying homestead a lot. Um, so welcome, Gracie. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's morning time here, so we're just getting started and finishing up some farm chores, and I'm so excited to be talking to you on the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's so nice. We were just saying before I hit record that there are so many people all over the world wanting and wishing and doing this life now, aren't there?
Mm. Yeah, there definitely are, and I think that people are not they don't really realize what they're sitting on. So there's so many things, that you can do. You don't have to have, sprawling acreage to be able to kind of pursue self-sufficiency. There's so many things that you can do in just a typical suburban backyard, and I feel like a lot of people are they are pursuing those things, and it makes me really really excited because I love seeing people take back the control of their food.
Yeah, me too. So the people that are watching this will know that I have a farm in Portugal, rural Portugal. Here they're called quintas.
Oh,
Uh,
cute.
Yeah, so everyone calls them Quintas instead. But yeah, for those the people that are watching that don't know who you are and where you are, can you
Mhm.
say, where are you? How long have you been there?
Yeah,
How
sure. So
looking at the space?
we are actually in Southern California, which I know a lot of people hear that and they think LA, but we're quite a few hours out of out of any big city. We have this like one road behind me. There's no street lights, so we live in a very very small community in the foothills of the mountains, and we've got 12 acres here. So we've been here for 9 years. 9 years we've been here, and just kind of we actually started off living in a shed with no plumbing here on the property because we were supposed to live on a old mobile home that was here. We were going to fix it up. That was the original plan. And then, through further inspections, we found it had black mold and that we weren't, it was just completely throughout the entire mobile home. It was irreparable. We had multiple people, come out and look at it, and we're just like, okay, that's not going to work. I was pregnant at the time, and so we actually ended up living in the office of the old owner, that we outfitted to be kind of like a tiny house, but there was no plumbing. So we got like a little rinky dink trailer someone was getting rid of. We put it next to the shed. This was 9 years ago, so it's been quite a journey to get where we are now. Um, but it was really important to us to kind of live off the land, to work the land, to run back to our roots, and to get back to where, we were in charge of our food. That was really important to us. We kind of looked around and we saw that the food system was super broken. And I grew up in a 3,200 square foot home in cookie cutter houses in like more of a city in California. So this way of life was really, really, really new to me. Um, such a long time ago. Now we've got 5 kids, and we just finished our custom build on our property. So we're going to be moving into it. We're waiting on one more inspection, and then we're going to be moving into that. We've got chicken tractors, we've got gardens, we're plotting an orchard, and we're actually getting more animals on Friday, which I'm super excited about. But so it's taken a really long time to get here. And I say that not to be discouraging to people, but to actually be encouraging, because if you're like, man, I've been trying and trying and trying, and it's been such a long time, but all I've got is a garden. That's a huge step still. Like that's still, moving forward. It does take time to get your systems established well. Like anybody can go out and buy chicks and then, be reliant on a feed store, but it takes time to make your land work for you. And I want to encourage people for that because like when we got here, our pasture was like tumbleweeds, it was not super grazing friendly. We've tried really hard to eradicate some of the more invasive plant species that are not good for grazing and things like that. So, but all of those things take time. And there's the one of the reasons that I really, really like living this way is because it is so seasonal. So there's a time and there's a place for everything. I feel I don't know how it is where you are, but here in California, we typically have 4 seasons. I joke that our winters are like baby winters, but we do have winter. We get snow, it freezes, we have frost dates just like anybody else. It's just a shorter amount of time. So I'm not sure how you handle, your seasons over there. But we have a pretty good growing season here in California, but we do still have, frost dates that we have to accommodate for and, housing for animals when it gets super, super cold. So I do understand a little bit about winter, but I'm not going to pretend that I understand, the Canadian homesteader who's got, 4 feet of snow on the ground every winter. But yeah, we love it here, and people kind of think we're crazy because of all the living situations, the different ones that we've had have been very less than ideal. But that's how important living this way was for us. It was a huge goal for us. And I feel like we're finally starting to see some major, major fruit from that. And again, it's been 9 years, almost 9 years. So I don't want anybody to feel discouraged if, you're just starting out or you're trying to become more self-sufficient and you just don't see how that's going to be possible. If you show up every day, like eventually it's going to be possible for you.
Yeah, totally. And isn't it amazing every time you do achieve like running water or hot
Yeah.
water or yeah,
Yes, hot water. It's such a gift, and I don't think people appreciate it nearly as much as they should.
yeah, yeah, it really makes you count your blessings, I think, when
Yes.
you come from like living very, very minimally.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I remember when our bathroom was finally inside, and it was such like a joyous day that we had a bathroom inside. I didn't have to go outside in the rain to go to the bathroom. So yeah, I guess blessings are. I think that we're a very, very grateful people, but I think that it's it's just great to be able to look back and see how far you've come. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of discouraged from having less than ideal situations, but don't run from them. Don't be scared for them because all it does is it builds character and it builds thankfulness, which are both great things.
Totally. Yeah. So have you always wanted to live this way, or was there some sort of tipping point?
No, definitely not. So I grew up, I had a Dachshund, or some people call them weenie dogs, like the tiny little, they have like short little paws. He wore sweaters. He did not want to go outside. We called him a house cat, even though he was a dog. And that was the only experience with animals that I had growing up. So I had never held a chicken. I don't even think I had seen a chicken in real life. I was city inner suburbia, normal, like normal, whatever you want to call normal upbringing of, I had my own bedroom and everything like that. We lived in a huge house and just in your suburban track homes, and we did not have animals. We did not garden ever. I didn't plant a seed until I was an adult. um and then I met my husband, and he kind of grew up a lot more this way. So they had, milking goats and gardens and chickens, and I think they had sheep at one point as well. And they kind of had like a hobby farm. It wasn't really for like self-sufficiency, but they kind of had a hobby farm. And once we moved up here, everyone kind of thought we were crazy, which maybe we are. Like, and I'll just preference it with, well, it is definitely out of the norm. I'll give you that. But when we moved up here, they were like, what are you going to do with 12 acres? Like, nobody needs 12 acres. What do you like here in California? Nobody does that unless you're a ranch and you're raising like Angus beef cows are the only reason that you would need to have, nobody does dairy. We've had the hardest time sourcing a dairy cow, and because nobody does it down here. So we're actually going to be getting one shipped to us fairly soon. But it was definitely off the beaten path for us to do this, and so it wasn't on my radar at all. And I just started reading. I started reading a lot. I came across this book, the Encyclopedia for Country Living by Carl. I'm sure you've read it. It's wildly popular here in the States. It was written quite some time ago. I don't remember if it was the 50s or the 60s, but sometime in that frame. And I just started reading it, and I was like, wow, this it just resonated with me so much. Of I think this is how we're supposed to live. Like, I don't think humans are supposed to be, container creatures. We're not meant to sit in a box and then eat out of a box and then stare at a box. And then it just, something felt really, really broken. And my health was also very, very poor at this time. I have a genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so my health was really poor. And there was doctors saying, well, we can't do anything for you. Just go home and try to be as comfortable as you can. And they were saying, well, just don't lift anything, or just don't go for long walks. And I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. I don't want to live my life constantly babying myself. I want to be able to go on a hike. I want to be able to, you know, lift things and help out here on the farm. And so I really started taking a look at what I was putting in, because what I was getting out was not good. I had all kinds of health problems, and I was very young. I was about 19 years old when I was like, this isn't normal. Like, I shouldn't feel as bad as I feel right now. I'm 19 years old, and I know I have this genetic disorder, but I don't let it define me. And so I started looking at what I was eating, and I mean, I was having, hot Cheetos and fast food and all this stuff. And then it kind of made me realize I'm not really giving myself a good fuel. So of course I'm not going to feel good. So I health was definitely like that catalyst, or that tipping point. I didn't grow up this way at all. So when my health took, a turn for the worse, and here we say, if you eat the standard American diet, you're going to get the standard American diseases. And so I saw that time and time and time again play out, um, in my family and my friends and the people around me. Nobody really felt good. Nobody really like was excited and getting up in the morning and like, yeah, I feel great. I didn't know anybody like that. Everybody was just kind of like in the same boat that I was, not really understanding health, eating prepackaged food, and then feeling gross. So health was definitely the catalyst for me as I started looking into it, and also just realizing like I was really, really drawn. My great grandparents had a fig tree, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever, that you could just go outside and pick fruit. Like, I didn't grow up that way. I know that sounds so like simple to other people who've been living this way for so long, but to me it wasn't simple at all. I thought, fruit trees were just like the most magical thing ever. So when we moved here, I told my husband, I said, all I want is fruit trees and some ducks. I thought it'd be so cool to just have a couple layers, make sure you have some eggs at all times. And we've just really really evolved from there. I think, we call chickens the gateway drug, or the gateway animal. Of once you have them, you realize that everything about this life is a circle. Everything about this life is symbiotic. And so, your garden feeds your chickens fertilize your garden, you know how it is. But so I think that once you get to that point of just being fed up with the food system, and fed up with not feeling well, um, that for me was definitely the driving force home to research, okay, why and what can I do about it? Because I'm not a sitter. Like, I like to go, and I like to strive and improve, and you know, try to create a better life.
Nice. You mentioned about animals. So,
Yeah.
how many, or not how many, but what animals do you currently have on your homestead, and what are your plans for other animals then?
So right now we have a good flock of chickens, and that is all that we currently have. We're set to pick up some meat sheep this Friday, and we have um, a cow coming, which I haven't announced yet, but we have a cow coming in April. So right now we're really, really focusing on our pasture health, because we're going to be having grazers, livestock grazers for the first time. So we've been out there just making sure that it's good quality. We've got a really good variety of like grass and legumes and all that kind of stuff to have a well-balanced diet for our grazers. These lambs that are coming to us, it was actually such a cool thing because I posted, if anybody, has any sheep that they're looking to get rid of, let us know. And there was somebody down the road that he's getting on in years. He's getting a little bit older, and he has some lambs that were rejected by the mama. So he's not really up for the bottle feeding that is going to need to be done, to get them onto the pasture. So we were, happy to take them. And we're actually going to be working today on getting their little pen set up adjacent to the garden area. So yeah, we're definitely expanding this year. This year is going to bring a lot of changes for our homestead. And I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, animals are exciting.
Mhm.
Even more chickens. It's
Yeah.
like you can never stop.
Yes, it's chickens. It never with chicken math, they never stop. Just when you come out there and you're like, wait a second, there's more of you.
Um, so we talked briefly before I hit record about the us moving away from can't speak now, from food stores,
Yeah.
because as humans doing this kind of life, we're
Mhm.
trying to move away from our own food stores, supermarkets,
Right.
and things. But you're also wishing to move away from the food stores for the animals as well. Can you tell me a
Mhm.
bit more about that?
I am, and I think that part of it is due to our location. So here in California, it's kind of slim pickings. Not a lot of people are raising animals. Like pretty much, I know one other person who's actually, raising animals to be self-sufficient. So the feed stores are few and far between, and what is available to us here is not the best quality. So we right now it's a big dip in our finances to provide our animals with feed that is actually good quality organic feed. And so for us, we have the space, and it's kind of like I told my husband, I was like, I feel like we're sitting on a feed store that we're just not using because we have acres of grazing land. And so we have, I think I see your little cat.
To come in.
And so we have been, we redid our coop structure to be a tractor for the chickens so that we can move them, graze them. Um, and I know, that's not an option for everybody. Not everybody has, the acreage. And so, you're going to be reliant on a feed store, and there's nothing wrong with that. But even if you're purchasing grain, you can still maximize that. You can, sprout it. Not only is it stretching your feed bill cost, but it's also extremely health beneficial for your chickens, for your animals. And that's kind of what we've really been focusing on. I would like to think that I'm a perfectionist, maybe like a chaotic perfectionist. So I like to get one system down really, 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 really well before I go and add something else. So this year, adding two things, adding, sheep and a cow. I'm a little bit nervous because I can't give, undivided attentions. I know newborn lambs are very, very needy. So it'll be stretching me for sure to have, because we also have, 5 kids, and we stay on the homestead. They homeschool, so there's just a lot going on right now. It's springtime, and I'm really anxious to just kind of get into it and learn some new skills. I think that we should always be growing. There's so many things that we want to add here, but we try not to do more than one thing a year, just so that we can get that down, before we're moving on to something else. And this year we're really focusing on getting away from the feed store and having some grazing animals on our pasture to improve pasture health.
I think that's so important as well. I think it's so easy to become overwhelmed with trying to do everything and then
Yeah.
spreading yourself really thin, and then almost nothing getting done and just feeling
Right.
really like this is a lot, this life. But
Mhm.
actually, if you focus on really learning one thing at a time,
Yeah.
uh, and getting good at that. I think that really, really helps.
It definitely does, and that's kind of what my page is about, my book is about, is all things something one tangible thing you can do right now to kind of improve your way of life. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Most people don't get the farm overnight. You know, it takes time, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with planning out your days and making sure that you said like you're not overwhelming yourself, because you don't want to get burnout, and that's so common. And you know, this life is simple but not necessarily easy. That you know that it requires you every day to show up every day, and a lot of people can get discouraged if they bite off a little bit more than they can actually chew, because it just seems so overwhelming. And you know, there are things that can help. I remember when we finally got automatic water in the garden, I felt like a free woman, because I had been out there watering every every day for 2 hours, because our garden is 2,000 square feet, and we have some we just have, it's just packed full in there of food. So I was out there in the heat of summer, because our summers here, I don't know how hot it gets there, but here it'll get to like 110 degrees. And so we really have to be watering twice a day in the summer. And we didn't have automatic water for the first 4 years of our garden. So I remember when we finally invested in an automatic waterer, it was magical. It simplified my day so much, so much. And like you said, those little blessings of running water are just so um, such a blessing that many people probably don't even think about. You know, in 2024, here we are sitting talking about how amazing running water is, and people are like, "Yeah, duh." But you know, when you strike out to begin a new path for yourself, you know, something that's not promised to you. So you kind of have to work for everything, and every little milestone is worth celebrating. And there are definitely systems in place that can help to prevent burnout, like automatic watering systems, like tractors if you don't have time to go and clean your coop every, you know, couple days. So there's definitely things that you can implement to just help prevent that. But I would say if you're just starting out, go with that mindset to begin with. I'm not trying to do everything right now. You know, it's a process of becoming. It's a process of becoming. You know, it's seeds don't sprout, don't turn into a little tiny seed isn't going to turn into mature fruit overnight. So like, don't expect you to. You know, nature has systems in place. Nature takes time for a reason. There's seasons for a reason.
Yeah, totally. Um, so I noticed on your Instagram that you were posting recently, quite a lot about things that people can do when they don't have lots of land
Yes.
and a big
Mm-hmm.
garden and stuff. What would be your kind of top tip or couple of tips for that for anyone watching this that's like, but I only have a
Right.
backyard or something?
Right. Right. So I actually have a downloadable ebook, and it's called The Top 5 Things You Can Do Right Now to, you know, move in a more homesteady direction. And so I think that to the suburban, you know, person, or the apartment person that's saying, well, that's great, but you know, I don't have that option available to me. There are so many things that you can do right now. I think that I would prioritize your kitchen skills. So I say this a lot. You hear me say this a lot on my page, but you don't have to grow the produce to can it. You don't have to milk the cow to make the cheese. You don't have to butcher the bird to know how to break it down and turn it into nutritious broth. Like, start eating like you have the farm before you have the farm. You know, there's no Pop-Tart tree, there's no chip tree. So if you aren't used to eating whole foods and eating, it's going to be really, really overwhelming when you're facing 100 potatoes all at one time, and you don't know what to do with raw potatoes because you've only ever bought the box. Or, you know, you're facing 200 pears at one time, and you don't know what to do with pears because you just buy one at the store when you're hungry for one, but you've never learned how to process them. So I think kitchen skills are a big one that most people, not all people, but most people can attain. Sourdough you can do anywhere. I'm a huge advocate for wild yeast and bread that's made, you know, properly. I feel like gluten gets blamed for everything nowadays, especially in the States. And it's our wheat here in America. It is so different than anywhere else in the world what they do to it and how they change it. And if you can, buy from a reputable source, buy your grain lasts like forever. I mean, they found some, archaeologists found some and then they were able to replant it hundreds of years later and it still sprouted and it grew. So it lasts forever. And if you can just get grain, bake your own bread, and then start supporting start supporting the people that are doing it. I know so many people are like, well, that's not attainable for me. Well, it might be for the people around you, and support them, encourage them to keep going, buy their raw milk, buy their produce. And you're still, I don't want that to come across as you're not being self-sufficient. Community sufficiency is always going to trump self-sufficiency. You cannot do everything. I can't do everything. We have 12 acres and I still can't do everything. I can't grow my own grain and for enough for my family. We don't have the space for that. So we have to maximize our space, which is able to handle, 2 dairy cows at max, a good flock of chickens. We're looking at getting pigs in next winter. So there's only so much that we can do. I can't grow my own grain, but I'm going to support a farmer that does. We have a program here in America called Azure Farms, and it's just a great program. And it's all about supporting local farmers as opposed to grocery stores, because a store is, at least here, in America, they're all corporations. Money is the bottom line. Everything has a ton of preservatives in it so that it can sit shiny on the shelf for you year round, where, all foods are seasonal. And I didn't even know that until I was an adult. Eggs are a seasonal item. I didn't know that because they were just always at the store. So, it's just a different way of looking at things. And if you don't have acreage, or you don't have the physical health to be able to manage animals, or you don't have some of the resources that we've been talking about, don't get discouraged, because you can still be a vital part in your community. Even if you're only able to be a consumer, consume from the farmers, consume from the people who are living this way, and that is going to help. That's going to help your community. It's going to help you. And not all raw milk is created equal. I want to put that out there as well. You have to make sure that this is a reputable source. So do your research, but if you can't grow it yourself, it doesn't mean that you can't learn the skills needed to take control of your food, because the consumer for the farmer is just as important as the seed that he's sowing. So you are still a vital part of your community.
Yeah, I love that. This idea we have to be it all and do it all and have
Yeah,
it all is kind of what we're trying to move away from, coming to
right.
homesteads or farms and things. Yet we can easily bring that energy with us and still be
Yeah.
trying to do it all. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not possible. And
Right.
it's actually so much better, like you said, for all of us, if
Yeah.
we all do the bits that we are either good at or have the
Mm-hmm.
space or the resources for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been amazing talking to you and listening to your passion as well, your passion for it all. So I'm
That's such a
really,
nice way of putting it, because I say I get ranty. And you're like, oh, you have such good passion. I'm like, yeah, don't get me talking about certain subjects, because I won't stop talking.
I'm like that about fermenting. Uh, or chickens. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy homesteading day and sharing with us. And
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm gonna put all your links and things below this video so that anyone can come and see what you're up to and see you moving into your new shiny house
Yes,
and
I'm so excited.
finally a house. Uh,
Yes, finally.
so yeah, I'm really grateful. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. So nice to meet you.
Okay, bye.